So I did the craziest thing I've ever done in my whole life. In December, a school called me, or a teacher from a school called me and said, hey, we had a Bible teacher leave in the middle of the school year. Would you come and help us out till the end of the school year? And I thought, sure, teach the Bible. That's going to be piece of cake. And then teaching middle school is the hardest job I've ever had in my whole life. And I've planted a church 3 times and doesn't even compare. I come home and I just want to lay on the couch. But I have a great new respect for teachers. And they are amazing people who are definitely heroes that are far, far underpaid. And but I was preaching at chapel at the school, and I asked 200 middle and high schoolers. I just had to get their opinion, right? This is an important question that I wanted to see what the next generation thought. I said, who's the greatest of all time? The GOAT. The GOAT, if you turn on any sports station, they're talking about it because LeBron might retire soon. I told the high school, is LeBron greater or Michael Jordan? And to my surprise, almost all 200 were like, LeBron! And I was like, you guys have not lived long. I lived in Chicago, and I was on the edge of my seat when Michael Jordan would play, and there is no comparison about who is the greatest of all time. And so what's crazy, though, is we ask that question. In the NBA, they're asking who's the greatest of all time. But sometimes we think about who's the greatest and at our jobs. Who's the greatest that we're all looking. We all want to be great. Want to be a great, and whatever our job is, want to be a great parent. Want to be a great grandparent. And then comparisons kind of creep in, right? We want to be the greater grandparent. Like, I have my t-shirt. It says it's official. I'm the number 1 grandpa. Sorry for all of you that think you're the number 1. So, well, arm wrestle, just kidding. But who's the greatest? And what we're really looking when we think about it for ourselves is we want to make an impact. We want to be remembered. We want to do something significant that has meaning. And when we look at today's passage, we find Jesus on the road with his disciples. And they're traveling down the road asking the same questions, pursuing similar goals. But sometimes they get a little off track. We're going to look at Mark chapter 10, verse 32 through 45. And we're going to see the wrong road to greatness. And we're going to see the right road to greatness. So it says in verse 32, now they were on the road going up to Jerusalem, and Jesus was walking on ahead of them, and they were amazed. And those who followed were fearful. What's going on? It's like weeks, if not days away from them entering into Jerusalem, and people know Jesus is being targeted to be killed. They're like, wow, he's still going to Jerusalem? And whoa. What happens to us if we're following him? They were both amazed and fearful. Again, he took the 12 aside and began to tell them what was going to happen to him. And this is the 3rd time in a couple of chapters where he predicts his death. But this prediction right here is the most vivid. Jesus takes him. He's like, huddle, huddle, team, 12, come over here. Get away from the crowd for a second. Come here. We're going to Jerusalem. This is what's going to happen. He says, behold, we are going up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man will be handed over to the chief priests and the scribes, and they will condemn him to death, and will hand him over to the Gentiles. And they, the Gentiles, will mock him and spit on him and flog him and kill him. And 3 days later, he will rise from the dead. James and John, like middle school students, raise their hand. Jesus is just giving them, I'm going to be whipped. I'm going to be spit on. I'm going to die. And they're like, question, teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask of you. The students are telling the teacher, teacher, I want you to do what I want you to do. Will you do whatever we tell you, Jesus? Will you do us one thing? Almost like, can you give us one wish? Jesus says to them, what do you want me to do for you? Wow. Imagine Jesus asking, what do you want me to do for you? Many of us have something we want Jesus to do for us. We've been praying for it for a long time, and we've been asking, Jesus, this is what I want you to do. Would you do? We have a prayer request, and Jesus is saying, imagine him saying, what do you want me to do for you? They said to him, grant that we may sit, one on your right and one on your left, in your glory. Jesus, when you finally have your throne in Jerusalem, okay, maybe James is older. He could sit on your right hand. And then John, forget about Peter, right? John, he could sit right here on your left. I mean, you can't really hate on them too much because think about it. They had just saw Jesus transfigured. And what three disciples were there? James, John, and Peter. And they're sitting there looking at Jesus. And I'm sure it's an image that's unforgettable, that's impressed in their minds. Like, wow, Jesus is shining, Moses, Elijah. And they're like, oh, surely Moses and Elijah are going to stay in heaven. And so when Jesus is shining in his glory in Jerusalem, there's 12 of us, but only 2 could sit at his right and left. And these guys, they're like first to ask. But Jesus says to them, you don't know what you're asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I drink or be baptized with the baptism with which I am baptized? They said to him, we are able. So Jesus says to them, the cup that I drink, you shall drink. And you shall be baptized with the baptism with which I'm baptized. Like, wow, these 2 disciples, they didn't know what Jesus was saying, but they were going to experience. They might not experience on this trip to Jerusalem, but there Jesus is speaking. He sees them, and he sees all their foolishness. He sees all their immaturity. He sees all their vain pursuit of vain glory. But yet he says, there will be a day where you will drink this cup, and you will be baptized with the same suffering I'm about to suffer. He tells them, but to sit at my right hand or my left is not mine to give, but it's for those for whom it has been prepared. Now, who's going to sit on my right and left? That position's already been assigned. It's already been, I can't give that to you. Now, this is what's crazy. Verse 41. Hearing this, the other 10 began to feel indignant with James and John. It's in their gut. They're just disgusted with these 2 guys. Why? Because who are they to ask for first-class upgrade seats before them, right? Who are they to say, hey, they wanted the same seats, but they're just mad that these 2 guys were the first to ask. The audacity. It says, they're feeling indignant, the other 10. So Jesus hears the other 2, James and John, so he calls them to himself. And Jesus says to them, you know that those who are recognized as rulers of the Gentiles domineer over them, and their people in high position exercise authority of them. You guys know. Bosses are bossy. They order people around. Rulers rule. Emperors, they think they're God. Like, you know how it works amongst these Gentiles. You know how they use their authority to push people around, to control and exercise authority. Verse 43. But it is not this way among you. It is not this way among you. James, John, it's not this way. Peter, not this way. Thomas, Bartholomew, Thaddeus, Simon, Matthew, Levi, come on, it's not going to be this way among you. Rather, whoever wants to become prominent, anybody who wants to become great among you, shall be your servant. And whoever wants to be first among you shall be the slave of all. You want to be great? That means you got to become a servant. You want to be first? That means you have to be the least of the slaves. You have to be the slave of all. You become the slave of all leaders, middle, even the other slaves. You're the slave of all. You're the slave of slaves if you want to be first. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. It's going over their heads. They weren't getting the lesson. He predicted his death 3 times. He's telling them, and even in the previous chapter, brings a little girl. They were arguing over who's the greatest, and he brings a little child in front of them, and he says, if you want to be great, you have to become like one of these children. And he's been teaching them over and over and over, and they're grabbing for power. They're trying to get positions. They're like so full of themselves, and they can't even really hear what Jesus is trying to tell them is about to happen. That the road to greatness isn't going to be like the Gentiles. It's the wrong way to greatness, and that's how we do it. Even in the church, even amongst God's people, we have the same problem, that same root of pride that just springs up like a weed in our life, where we even, and it's not just the leaders, because we could feed it as followers, where we're thinking bigger numbers equals success. And if you're in America, the bigger the better, right? And the more people you lead, the more powerful you are, and the more privileges, and the more rank, and you think, wow, those are the spiritual people. Where like, I think God's in heaven and sees someone changing a diaper in a nursery and saying, that person's greater than the pastor in this church. He sees the person who's cleaning the floors and says, wow, this person is a servant. And in my eyes, I see greatness from their heart. It's like we fall into these same traps, the wrong road to glory. Jesus doesn't tell them, like, hey, your desire to be great at what you do is wrong. He's saying the route to get there is wrong. Your picture and your definition of what it is wrong. But hey, God, he says, hey, desire to make an impact, desire to do significant things. But if you're going to do something great, do small things for small people. The right way to greatness is Jesus. He starts out the passage saying how much he's going to suffer. And then he comes down at the end and he says it again. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life a ransom for many. That the Son of Man didn't come to get served, but to serve others. He's like, you're my followers. If you're going to follow me, I'm the suffering servant. I'm going to suffer and I serve. And to follow the suffering servant means you must be willing to suffer and you must be willing to serve. For the Son of Man didn't come to be served, but to serve and to give his life a ransom for many. The road to glory for Jesus went through a cross in the side of Jerusalem. The road to greatness in our homes is who's going to serve the most. The road to greatness in our churches is who's going to serve. Even in our workplaces, the youth pastor who is like a father figure to me worked and moved from Miami and went to Tampa. And he would always say, you know who you're called to serve? The person in the cubicle next to you. You know who you should give a cup of water to? The person who works a few cubicles down. Take them a cup of water in the name of Jesus. Serve your coworkers. You wondering who God's called you to serve? You're a servant of everyone, but start with a person right next to you, maybe your next door neighbor. Become a servant of everyone. If you want to be the GOAT, the G-O-T, the greatest of all time with discipleship, you have to be a sheep, an S-H-E-E-P, because Jesus separates the goats from the sheep. So hopefully you're a sheep, right? And what is a sheep? Servant-hearted person. Servant-hearted, encouraging everyone person. Servant-hearted, encouraging everyone person. Do you have a servant heart that encourage everyone you come across? Are you that type of person? Don't try to be the MVP or the most valuable person, MVP privileges, or VIP, very important person. No, just be a servant-hearted, encourage everyone person. And you'll see God use you. And he'll work in your heart. It's interesting. My first job at a church, I was 17 years old. And before I got the job, I had to do it for free as an intern in the summer. I was in high school, and my youth pastor said, hey, would you like to do an internship this summer with the church? I'm like, sure. He's like, you can help with the youth group. We'll even let you teach sometime. You can help make flyers for the outreach event. We have the mission trip. You could just help 2 days a week at the church. And I'm thinking, wow, this is going to be fun. I get to hang around the youth pastor, and I get to do all this fun stuff. And then the first day, me and my friends show up for our internship. And he got to mow the lawn, and I got taken to the men's bathroom. It had 2 sinks, 2 toilets, and 2 urinals, and my youth pastor cleaned the first sink, and he showed me how to do it and how to make the thing shine, the chrome shine, and then he goes to the toilet, cleans the toilet, scrubs it, and then he goes to the urinal, cleans one of the urinals, and he gives me all the supplies and says, now you do the other half. And what happened was the previous janitor or volunteer or whoever it was no longer there, and the senior pastor had been cleaning the bathrooms for like 3 months. And so, needless to say, it was a quick job, It wasn't the most thorough cleaning. So I'm there, I clean the sink, I clean the toilet, I get to the urinal, and I start cleaning the urinal, and there was like this little thing where you grab the plastic piece that covers it, and then you scrub in the middle, just like my youth pastor, and then this thing that was holding the plastic piece fell, the wind hit, splashed the water, and water splashed all over me. I ran out of the bathroom screaming, "Ah!" The church secretary runs down the hallway, "Are you okay? Did you fall? What happened?" The youth pastor comes out. I was like, "The urine water got on me." Thought it was the end of the world. But I didn't quit. And what was interesting is that summer, as I was working in those church hallways, they ended up hiring me to be the janitor for my senior year of school, or my last year of high school. And as I would clean those bathrooms on Saturdays, all alone in the building, just there mopping floors, I would feel so close to the Lord. I would feel his presence with me, just serving. Like, wow. Like that verse that says, I'd rather be a doorkeeper in the house of the Lord than 1,000 days elsewhere. It's like, I would rather mop and be in God's presence and be with him serving than anywhere else, even if it's the lowest job for his kingdom. God's presence is with us in suffering, but sometimes we don't have a choice over how much we suffer, but we do have a choice over how much we serve. My challenge to you is kind of what I've been doing as a teacher. I'm not the janitor at the school, but when I leave after school, my classroom's next to like a eating area outside and by the basketball courts, and a lot of times students leave Gatorade bottles and garbage, and I set my stuff down, and I go and I pick up the garbage and put it in the garbage can. So as a reminder to my own heart, never to graduate from being a servant. And as you serve the Lord, one way you could apply and to think about it, if you're able, I know we're different physical stages in life, and sometimes I have friends that have back problems, so you got a pass if you're one of my students today, if you got back problems. But why not the next time you walk by garbage, pick it up, put it in the garbage. To say there's no job that's beneath me. There's no person too small that I can't serve, and there's no task that I could do for the Lord that is too little for his kingdom. Why not for this week? Just make that a challenge. I will not walk by garbage on the floor. I'll pick it up. And even something more powerful, be a servant of servants. I've been trying to do this. I go to Panera Bread in Homestead in the morning, get a cup of coffee on my way to school, and I got to know the guy's name who serves me my cup and sometimes a bagel. His name is Chris. And I'm trying to get to know him, and I want to be an encourager to servants. I want to be the servant of servants. May the same be true of you. Let's pray.